So having this reinvigoration, having those guys back in the band, having this new momentum, how did that color the writing and recording process for Storm Within?
I mean, it almost felt like we could write 1 million songs in the same quality, and we had ideas and we had creative opportunities to. We signed with a new record label back then, and we all of a sudden we had funds that we could. I remember for the Storm Within, we had this vision that it was like a stormy sea. That was the vision. We put that up on video screens all over around us. So we had that going all day when we were writing for this album, right? So, and then we were inspired by movies like Interstellar and that scenery of those movies, right?
Yeah.
And then we got to go to Iceland and record 3 videos on Iceland for that album, right? So yeah, it was just a great creative period that it's still here. That same vibe is still here today.
And what was
And we brought in Floor Jansen on a couple of songs, and my ex-wife was on a song, and yeah, it's like just all of these small, or not even small, all of these great things that we put into that album that made us progress and move forward.
and now I got to ask you a little more about Iceland and what that experience is like. I've never been. I want to go someday.
You should definitely go.
What was that like for Evergrey?
I mean, we went there with we had been there touring with not touring. We had been there in between. I think it was Icelandic Air or some American air company that offered an opportunity to stay on Iceland for 2 days before going to Sweden or to the US, right? So we took that and we played 2 shows in Iceland like a long time back. And then I fell in love with Iceland and then the scenery. We got this great guy called Thorstein who showed us around, and we were young and drunk and everything was just great. And I just wanted to re-experience that again. So this time we went with Patrick Uleus, and we had rented this big Jeep, and every time we saw something that looked like a great backdrop there's a scene in a song called Paradox of the Flame where this mist rolls in on a black beach. Everybody thinks that's CGI. It's the real deal. It's me on a black beach with my then ex-wife. So Iceland is so dramatic, right?
Yeah,
and it really fit the mood of that album.
Yeah.
I'm really loving that album.
There was a little horror movie. I think it was like one of those A20 movies last year, the year before. It's called Lamb, but I'd highly recommend it. But it takes place in Iceland, and it really makes use of just it's almost like the landscape, the terrain is a character in the movie.
It's so beautiful for me. I'm not a somber person, but our music is somewhat, I don't know what to call it myself even. But I mean it's dramatic, and it's sad at times, but those elements give me energy, right? It's not something that sort of puts me down. It's something that brings me up. I was talking to Floor Jansen about this exact thing, that sad music is an atmospheric movie score type music is something that we live off of, right? It's not something that puts us down or makes us feel worse. We don't sit and get depressed by it. It's the other way around.
No, if anything, I was having this conversation with someone yesterday about aggressive music in general, or dark gothic music, whatever it is. I think not only is that music not inspiring people to do harm, I think it's quite the opposite. I think if we didn't have this type of escapism, for a lot of people, it's like the difference between punching someone in the face and punching the door, right? Like you can throw on Slayer, and maybe that's how many people is that prevented from going out and harming other people because they had that.
Because I think exactly, because what I think music offers is understanding. It's a sense of belonging to something, and when you feel that you're not alone in the world with your feelings, that's when you that makes it easier, right? So that's what it does for me anyway.
Yeah, people will look at my Spotify history, and they'll go, man, it's a lot of Typo Negative and Paradise Lost and Evergrey, and it's like, you must be so depressed. And it's like, no, if anything, this is keeping me out of the depression.
Yeah, most definitely. Yeah,
To the
yeah.
depression.
Huge Type of Negative fan too. So
Oh, one of my top three favorite bands of all time. Yeah, for me.
yeah, Evergrey is very inspired by Type of Negative. I don't think people notices, but we
Yeah,
are.
and I think it's because you're one of those bands that's able to take inspiration and personality and character of something, but not do imitation.
Yeah,
And that's always the trick. You don't sound like an imitation of Typo, so the sensibility is more in the DNA, but
yeah.
not so
And
obvious.
it is in the DNA. I think it's in the DNA of everybody watching Headbangers Ball when you were growing up and seeing Pete Steele singing his. I mean, it's a brilliant band, and it was a brilliant bunch of musicians in that band, and I think that's quite overlooked
Yeah,
in favor of the Decadence and
yeah, and it
the
was such a
Playgirl
very
magazines and all that
specific
stuff.
sound too between Kenny's vocals and those guitar tones, and obviously, of course, everything Pete Steele did as the mastermind of the whole thing, and Josh Silver, and yeah, like you said, it's all just incredible assemblage of musicians, and they were so self-deprecating and had that humorous side that people who maybe have just a surface knowledge of the band don't quite understand how much depth is actually within the music itself. It's like, no,
Yeah,
they had that jokey side, but it was almost just the balance, the weight of how
I think
heavy.
they had to. Yes, absolutely, because it was dark and it was
Yeah,
heavy and it was all of those things that I guess we all go through. But yeah,
yeah. And romantic, as
yeah, absolutely, yeah,
misanthropic and romantic at the same time.
yeah, yeah.